Thank you all for joining us for the Goal Exploration Workshop. Joining us today are John and Marta from US Bank, and they're going to be reviewing the art of goal setting. So I'm going to hand it over to John to get us started.
I just want to first of all say thank you to the graduate college here at UNLV. There's been such a great partner as we're kind of rolling this out and really creating an opportunity to share what we do at US Bank as goals coaches to you all as part of those students and part of the graduate college. I've personally been there myself, and going through that journey is definitely one that takes a lot out of you. But what the graduate college is really here for and this partnership is about is taking care of you guys all beyond just the academics. They are definitely here to make sure you are taken care of and graduating with all the proper documentation and all the proper theses and dissertations submitted. But they're also here to take care of you as a whole and everything that goes beyond that. So very first, I want to say thank you for them for creating this opportunity and this partnership. Again, my name is John Hirano. Prior to becoming a goals coach here with US Bank, I have spent time as an executive director for a small nonprofit, but I've really spent much of my career prior to that in the education field, whether it was as a professor or teaching from students from anywhere from middle school through high school as well. And it's a very big part of who I am, and really being able to give back to the next generation and people that are, and really instilling knowledge, you could say, and really creating hope. My background is definitely not what you would think of in terms of a coach. I didn't go to school for coaching. I actually went to school for electrical engineering and getting my PhD in such from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And so I definitely do know many of the trials that you've gone through and are going through, but know that at the end of the day, that road is one that is full of joy at the end, and is of when you hit that ending point, you can feel that success and that the pride that comes with it. On many of the documentations, you've probably seen one of my fellow coaches that have been dedicated to helping serve the UNLV, Eddie Rivera. He sends his apologies for not being able to join us today. There's some personal and family things that came up that he needed to take care of. But prior to becoming a coach with US Bank, he too spent time as a executive coach and a leadership strategist, spending many of years of helping high-level leaders really know where they wanted to be at the end and kind of growing into that. He has also been a member of Friends of UNLV since 2009, and currently also still serves as an executive coach for the Lee Business School's MBA program. My co-host for today, as she introduces herself, is Marta.
Well, hello everyone. I'm very glad to be here this evening with you all. So again, my name is Marta Dubchenska, and my background isn't the typical coaching background either. Majority of my background has been in higher education enrollment advising as well as rehabilitation counseling. And I have received my bachelor's in criminal justice, minoring in psychology at Roosevelt University in Chicago. And so going into the power of goal setting. So, why is it important to set goals? Ultimately, the power of goal setting helps us turn our vision of the future into a reality. You're so much more likely to put time and energy into something that excites you, right? So your goals should reflect that same level of momentum. Think of a goal as a dream with a deadline. And then now all we have to do is create that blueprint for the achievement. If you're able to share your goals that you've written down with a friend, a family member, or another person that you trust, you definitely want to do so. And if not, just say your goals out loud to yourself. And this helps makes the goal planning process less of a concept and reality. Studies have shown that when we train our mind to think about what we want in life and actually work towards reaching it, the brain automatically rewires itself to acquire the ideal self-image and makes it an essential part of our identity. So a couple ways that you can envision your goals are by vision boards, creative writings, drawings, and images. There's also smart ways that you can set your goals. So, John, tell us about those smart goals.
So SMART goals, they are very intelligent in their own right, but at the end of the day, SMART goals is really a framework that we like to use to help really define what a well thought out and a well-defined goal is. So there are 5 criteria to this, and as we'll kind of go through it as we follow. So starting at the top, you want your goals to be specific. This means that you want them to be as detailed as you possibly can. There is a big difference between having a goal that is like, hey, I want to graduate, like many of us have graduated with our undergrads, right? We didn't just say, hey, I want to get my undergraduate degree, or I want to just get a bachelor's, right? We all at some point had to come to the point, some of us took longer than others, but we all came to the point where we're like, hey, I want to get my bachelor's degree in psychology, or I wanted to get my bachelor's degree as for myself in electrical engineering compared to any other engineering or really anything else. The more specific those goals are, more defined our target is. So we know exactly what we're aiming for and what we're trying to achieve. The second step here is measurable. We want to make sure that all of our goals at the end of the day are quantifiable. We need to kind of have those measurable things. Too often not, I think we've all at some point over time have set a goal that we didn't really have a measurable. For me in the past is get in shape. But right, when we talk about a measurable goal or be healthy, it's better to say, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds. Because when we have a number attached to it, we're really a lot easier to be able to be like, to track our progress along the way. So we can say like, yeah, we've lost 2 pounds, we've lost 3 pounds now. We are able to actually know our progress, or like, hey, oh, we went back a pound, right? We're able to know where we are in that process and really know, are we really getting close to reaching that goal at the end of the day? The next thing we want to make sure is that, are those goals achievable? At the end of the day, we all have limited resources. Those resources are not just limited to finances and how much money we have in our accounts, but they could be a limitation of knowledge. I'm sure many of us felt like we went back to school because we needed more of something in order to progress in our lives, whether it's our careers or a passion of ours. But one of the main resources that I think we're most limited in at times is our time. Too often not, we realize that, hey, we have 24 hours in a day, we have 7 days in a week, and realistically, that's all we got. Me, I wish I had a little bit more here and there to do a little bit more, but with time, we have to kind of know how much time can we give. So at the end of the day, we have to, as we look at those goals, we have to be able to tell ourselves, like, do I have the time to achieve this? We all have things beyond just school. Right? I'm sure some of you have school. Maybe you work full time. Maybe you're married. Maybe you have kids. All of these things kind of stack together, and each of them take a little bit of that time. So a goal that we may have been able to accomplish in at other phases of our lives when we had more of it to give, maybe it's a little bit harder. So maybe we need to change our goals or adjust our goals a little bit in order to make sure that we do have the correct resources to achieve them. The next thing here is the R, which is for relevant. Those goals that we choose, they need to line up with our plans for our lives, right? We all probably have those North Star goals, those big goals. And so all of our smaller goals, they really need to line up. At the end of the day, yes, you can call me a doctor, but there's no way that I can do surgery on your knee, right? My goal of having a PhD in electrical engineering doesn't quite line up if my goal in life was to become a surgeon. You want to make sure that all of your goals kind of line up and follow one after another. That way you know that what you're doing really has value and gets you to where you want to be at the end of the day. And the last one here is time-based. This is probably, for me, it's probably one of the most important parts of these goals. Because if we don't set a deadline, it's very easy for us to say, hey, that other thing, I think that's more important. I'm going to do that now. And then we tend to push back our goals. And even when we do set a time for it, I mean, how many of you have said, hey, I'm going to go to the gym this year, or I'm going to go and work out more this year, and January, you're on top of it, and then May and June, you're not quite there, and then you and everybody else come November are crowding the gyms and trying to get back into shape right before the end of the year so you can say you did it, right? Being mindful where those time goals are set and how close or how far they are from you also have an impact on planning and making sure that goal is well defined at the end of the day. When you look back at your own lives, when we think about some of our goals that we've reached, maybe some of those goals that we've fallen a little short of, try to think for a second. Those goals have these 5 criteria? I would probably say the ones that you did accomplish probably had more than not. But that's something to think about.
That's a good point, John. We definitely want to make sure that we are setting SMART goals for important aspects within our life. And so on this slide, you're going to see some of the goals that we discuss with clients as coaches. So take a second and look at the ones that stick out to you. And if you feel comfortable, share within the chat, and then we will get back to that in just a few moments. But the great thing that I love about goals is that they help you measure your progress, they help you stay motivated, and they help you beat procrastination. And ultimately, goals help you determine what you want in life and who you are as a person. And so, when asking the question, what is a good goal? Keep in mind that goals can look very different depending on your lifestyle, on your values, and ultimately what your definition of success is. Your goals are going to be unique to you. Goals are more than just what you see today at this point and present moment within your life. It's about figuring out the next steps in your career or your life, or possibly both. And while working towards your goals, you shouldn't stop your personal life because of your career path or the possible school debt that you may have. When setting goals, it's very important to have a balance and not forget about the other parts of your life. And so, someone shared, build my career. Yay, that's definitely a great one. So, which is why I'm going to assume majority of you are in school is to be able to get to that next step in your career. So nice. Thank you for sharing.
Now that we've all kind of thought about those goals a little bit, we want to take a little bit of time now to, okay, how do we start building that plan, right? I think many of our lives are a lot more complex than they were um, at earlier phases of our lives, and so there's a lot more to take into consideration. And this is a place where a coach can really help you, partner with you, help guide you through that process, and really think through all of those complex pieces and how they kind of partner together and sit together. But one thing I want to ask everybody here, as you guys kind of think about your own lives, right, is how many of you here have felt like that you're back in school or you continued school because you felt like, hey, I really do enjoy the company I'm working for, or I like where I'm at, but I know I need a little bit more to stay at this place long term, right? Or to grow within this company long term. Or maybe you know at the end of the day, like, hey, I need to find the next place. Maybe I've hit the cap at my current company, and I know I want to grow, and so I'm back gaining some new knowledge, gaining some new insight to kind of take advantage of whatever that next step is. The third group might be like, hey, maybe you're ready to be your own boss, right? There's an entrepreneurial spirit that sits inside of you. You're like, hey, I have spent a few years developing my skills. I know my craft. I know my art, or whatever that thing is. And then you're like, but now I want to take it. I want to run my own company. I want to be my own boss. I want to bring my own team along with me. Um, or maybe you're at a crossroads, right? I think this year in particular, 2020, has thrown many of us for a loop. I can most positively say that for most people, where you started and your aspirations January 1 are very different than where they are today. And maybe you're in that part of life where you're like, hey, life happened. I'm at this place and I have to decide what I want to do next. And you're ready to start a new chapter, something totally new and different for yourself. If you feel like you fit into any of these categories at the end of the day, I would say, yeah, a coach could be a good help for you. And that's someone that can kind of help you get to that next place and build that plan for yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree, John. Starting a new chapter within your life can be pretty intimidating, especially on what that new chapter of your life may look like. So, the great thing about entering a partnership with a coach is that we're here to assist you with the development of your action plan. And we're also here to provide you guidance, motivation, and support. So if things get hard within your life and you feel like you're falling off track, you're going to have someone to connect with and readjust your plans and milestones as your life changes. So whether it's increasing your intelligence, taking up a new hobby, or possibly even rekindling a relationship, setting goals lets us create our future. It helps us push ourselves to transform in ways that we never imagined. And in order to truly feel fulfilled, we need to know that we're working towards achieving something. And there's a quote by Tony Robbins that I really like, and it's progress equals happiness. And setting goals is what truly gets us there. And the fun fact is that, so this is actually one of my favorite fun facts is that it can take anywhere from 18 to 254 days for a person to form a new habit and an average of 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic.
Oh, wow, thanks, Marta, for sharing that. That is something that I know for myself I really didn't know until I heard you talk about this. And that's I think that really is a lot to say, right? Like 254 days, that's almost a year, right? I think that's about like 9 months or so. Um, but I think that really says a lot about how we need to kind of look at our goals. That sometimes it takes a little longer, right? We're not going to just achieve our goals tomorrow. And so especially when it comes to things like your finances, sometimes, I think we all have our own set of financial goals at the end of the day, whether we all like it or not. Finances is what it takes to keep this world moving, and it really takes what we need to survive. But something that I think Marta did mention earlier was that, how do you find that balance? And in order to sustain that success, in order to push through to those 254 days, you have to find that balance. You can't just be eating ramen every night because you're trying to save up money. That's probably not good. It's probably not the most enjoyable. Maybe you love ramen, and when I mean ramen, I mean not that fancy ramen, but really that homemade instant ramen life. Um, but that's not necessarily going to give you that joy to kind of persist through those goals. And that really does fall back to the last point here in terms of sustaining success, right? We want to make sure that we're looking at you from that holistic manner, right? I think that's what this partnership is really about with the graduate college, is that they want you to be successful in school, but they also want you to be successful outside of it. Whatever that next step, the next season of your life is, here or beyond the graduate college, they want you to be successful. And part of what coaching is and what we do is make sure that you can help find that balance. Um, Eating ramen every night might get you to those financial goals of yours, but maybe it doesn't quite get you there in terms of your health, right? I was there once. If you're a research assistant, those stipends don't pay for much more than ramen every night. But it definitely allows you have to find ways in order for you to kind of keep up your emotional health, um, in addition to your physical health. They both kind of play a role in making sure that you're able to sustain yourself and kind of push through and really at the end of the day reach those bigger goals that you kind of have. And then here, as we're about to kind of come to the end of talking about coach of what goal setting is, and before our Q&A, I wanted to introduce you to the other five coaches that are here in the Las Vegas area. If you look quickly, all of us have a very diverse background, even from me, Eddie, and Marta. The other five here also have kind of a wide array. At the end of the day, the one thing that kind of we all have in common and that we all hold dear to each of our hearts is that we just want to see people succeed. We want to partner with people, help them to realize those dreams, maybe even understand some of those dreams that are bigger than their moment, and then make them come true, right? That for us is the greatest thing that we can do, and that's what we love doing, and that's why we're coaches. And that's why we are all part of this team, and that's something I want to share with you guys all. Um, but in terms of next steps, and really understanding why we're here to kind of help you all, it's at the end of the day, we ask you to, set up an appointment with any of our coaches. If you look at the screen now, there are some QR codes for each of the three of us, Eddie, Marta, and myself. And take it, scan it. They're connected directly to our calendars, and it really allows you to kind of just book a time that fits with you. And really, we want to hear at the end of the day is to help you, like we were saying. This program, talking about goals today, is really about creating a moment for you to realize what your future can hold. And then we're here to help partner you through that. Um, but I also want to slide into a little bit of questions and answers and hear from you guys and what you guys have.
Oop, really quick, just on the last slide, I always like to throw in that I myself never understand QR codes. I never know where to go on my phone for it to scan. So if you're just like me, you can visit usbank.com/explore my goals, and that'll take you directly to the website as well. And you can book a session that way as well.
Thanks, Marta. So we would love to hear any questions you guys have, and really just what are some of your guys' thoughts from today?
Thank you so much, John and Marta. So while everyone's thinking about what questions they have about goals, would you mind just walking us through what a goal exploration session with a coach will look like and how long a session typically lasts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a goal session, so first I would like to say that there is no limit to how many sessions that you can have with the coach. The first session is the exploration session. So that's where we really take a dive into your goals and we really want to understand your motivation, what's keeping you up at night, and really get that emotional connection to the goal. So the session, depending on how many goals you choose and how much you're really willing to share with us, it can take anywhere from 30, 45 to an hour. But don't let the hour scare you because an hour sounds like a lot, but when you're really having a great conversation and you're letting one of the coaches know about your passions, what's really motivating you, that hour can feel like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and just to kind of expand on what Marta was saying, right? That first session is, at the end of the day, is exactly that. It's a time, for us to get to know each other. At the end of the day, we don't expect you to trust us immediately. Trust takes a little bit of time, right? So it takes a little bit of time to converse and understand that, like, hey, this person I'm talking to, this coach cares about what I care about, and we do. And making sure that you're comfortable enough to get to those places. And sometimes it takes 5 minutes and two people just hit it off. I'm sure we've all been in those situations where we're like, oh yeah, and then you tell each other your life stories. Or sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and that's all fine, right? A goals exploration session, sometimes it takes, like Marta said, an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, but sometimes, depending on the situation, maybe it takes two of those sessions to really spend time and really diving into those goals. But I do want to echo the fact that all of our sessions are completely free. And this is a service that is provided to you no matter if you do bank with US Bank or not. At the end of the day, we're here to serve you because you guys are part of the graduate college and they're an excellent partner and they really want to see what's best for you guys. So I just want to let you guys know there is about an hour and we kind of talk about things, and really at the end of the day is to dive into the why behind each of your goals and how they're interconnected a little bit.
Thank you so much for clarifying. Somebody asked me, are these goal sessions focused on finances or do they cover all areas of life?
So it's really both. So if there are finances that you would like to discuss, we can, but we are not financial advisors. So if there is a goal that has a very specific financial need, for example, buying a home, and you're wanting to know the down payment that you need to put down for that home, that is not something that us as coaches can answer, but we can definitely connect you with an expert within the bank. So there's really no right or wrong goal that you can choose, but if it's more financially based, then we would connect you with that financial expert within the bank that can better assist you with understanding that aspect of the goal.
Yeah, part of that too is I think, so I kind of went back to this slide and to show, right? I think some of them have, again, many of our pieces of our lives are tied to those financial things, but that's not everything, right? At the end of the day, hey, maybe you are a newlywed couple and your goal with your wife or your spouse is to to grow your family, right? If that's a goal of yours, that's definitely something that can be discussed. And so there are a couple of things that in terms of our goals process and our program that are very key and important to us. And Marta kind of touched on it to begin with in terms of the financial part, is that one, our conversations are completely confidential. Everything you talk to your coach about is completely between the two of you, right? They're not going to go and tell one of our business partners like, hey, you need to call this person. um, that's not what this service is about. This service at the end of the day is purely about taking care of you and conversing in that way. If at some point you have questions about a mortgage, then by all means we will introduce you to one of our mortgage people, and they will answer your questions. But they also know that when talking to one of our clients, that they're not coming in to sell anything. Because as coaches, the second thing that's important to us is that we don't sell products. One of the biggest reasons for myself coming into this role is that even though I do work for a bank, at the end of the day, I understood it was made very clear that I wasn't going to be selling products, and that my job would be purely to help my clients to understand their goals, uncover new goals, and create a plan and a partnership to achieve those goals. At the end of the day, I'm not even allowed to necessarily talk about any products, right? So even if you were to bring up the fact that like, hey, I need a loan for this thing, we have partners within our company that will assist you, or better yet, even just answer your questions about them. Like, what are my options? By all means, we have partners that can answer those questions, but though that is definitely outside of um, anything we discuss as coaches. And the last thing, as Marta was mentioning, was the financial planners. We aren't financial planners by any means. So we're not here to, we can't give you financial advice. We can't say, hey, you need to make this investment, or hey, this is how you should put your money away. Um, Again, our company has those people, and if you would like to speak with them from our company, by all means, we can make those introductions. But those things are definitely boundaries in which we take very seriously and protect in their own rights. So I hope that kind of answers the question that, yes, kind of a long way of saying, yes, we talk about everything in your life, from families to finances and everything in between.
Thank you. So we have somebody asked if financing a used vehicle is a possibility with a GA salary. So I'll let John and Marta answer this, but this seems like a scenario where you would make an appointment with a goals coach and they would bring in an expert in that field to help with those questions.
Yeah, correct. So with that, it's more of digging into your budget, right? And it's more of like, are you looking to pay for the vehicle? Like, how much money are you possibly looking to put down? Or would you be kind of moving backwards in other aspects of your life by trying to get this vehicle? Is it really necessary for you? So we ask those questions to really determine, like, do you really need to finance this vehicle right now, or can you wait to do that, right? But if you're like, hey, I really want this new Lambo truck and I really want to finance it, then we're not here to stop you from your goals. We really just want to understand, why do you want it? And we will again connect you to the right person that can give you that financial advice that's specifically related to financing the vehicle.
Thank you. Somebody else asks, are the goal sessions focused on careers in a specific industry? Can you clarify that, Camille? Oh, careers, sorry. Are the goal session focused on careers in a specific industry?
No. I think in terms of careers, we really talk about things all the way across the board, right? From my own personal experiences, I have clients that work in that are kind of where some people are, right? They're just coming out of college, they're trying to figure out what that first job is, and they're looking for something in entertainment, and they're looking for something in journalism. But we also have clients, and between some of our other coaches, that they are business owners and they're trying to figure out what that next step is for their company and how does that relate to their lives. So really there is no industry that we specifically tie to ourselves to. at the end of the day, what we do as coaches is, I think what we do best as coaches is to understand where you are, and understand where you want to be. And if there is advice that are outside of my knowledge base, I know I can always, with obviously again with your permission, right? I can always tug on the knowledge base of my other coaches, or other individuals that can advise in the better sense. We've definitely had clients that are, thinking about the military, and so we've seen clients be introduced to other members of our team to advise in that role, in terms of what they're doing in those different places. And so we as a team kind of operate in that sense, to kind of help people as best as we can across the board, but there's no specific industry that we focus on.
Thank you. So most of our campus services are being offered virtually. So if we want to make an appointment with a goals coach, will the appointments be available in a virtual platform?
So when setting up a session with a goals coach, you do have the option to set it up virtually. So when you click on the QR code or go to usbank.com, explore my goals, you do have the option to meet in person as well, but it's really up to you as the individual and us as the coach as well, and how comfortable we are. So if you're comfortable meeting in person and the coach is comfortable meeting in person, then we can definitely do so in a safe setting, but we can definitely do it virtually as well. So there's really no right or wrong in how we can meet.
Thank you. So we have another question. If we're someone that's new to goal setting, do you suggest creating multiple goals or starting with one goal at a time? And are there pros and cons to either one?
I'll take this question. I think at the end of the day, there really is no right or wrong way, especially when you're just starting out, right? If like tactically setting goals and moving forward, if that's something new to you, there is no right or wrong answer, right? Some people are very fearful when they think about those big goals, right? If you're trying to set a goal that is like, hey, I want to have a company that goes public one day, that's a big goal, right? Public as in publicly traded, and it's a great goal to have, but there are obviously things that come with it that kind of build up to that place. But for when those that are starting, I often say, hey, pick a couple small goals to start with, right? You want to build some momentum in terms of your goal setting as well as your goal achievement. Um, when you hit those goals and you hit those milestones and you get that check mark and you're like, yes, done, it really does a lot for us internally in terms of our emotions and our psyche to be like, you know what, I can do it. I achieved this thing, so that means I can achieve the next thing. But whether it's one goal because you're comfortable saying like, I'm gonna take this one step and build that muscle, then great, right? We were talking about getting in shape earlier, right? We don't all start off benching 2 plates or benching 45 plates right off the bat, right? Some of us start off with just the bar, right? And we just start there. We all have different capacities and starting places. We as coaches are here to kind of help you with that piece, right? It's like, hey, let's talk about if you are worried about trying to accomplish or failing at one or two goals because there's too many on the plate, by all means, we'll start with one. And just having a coach there to kind of talk you through it, understand those fears and understand those concerns. I think that's really where a coach comes in handy and really partners with you well to make sure that you're not trying to take on more than you can at any particular moment.
And also, just to add to that, that was really great, John. That and sometimes goals go hand in hand. So let's say that you want to work on your debt as well as work on your increasing your credit score. Those, usually go hand in hand. So you really want to make sure that you choose goals that are immediate to what you're wanting to accomplish within your life that's most relevant, right? And then if those goals change, okay, completely fine. Reach out to your coach, and then we'll adjust the plan as we go. So you don't have to feel pressured into, oh my gosh, I chose these goals and now I have to stick with them. It's very flexible to your life and the different circumstances that happen within your life.
Thank you. So I have another question here. So a lot of us set many goals, but end up not following through on the steps to meet these goals. What kind of suggestions do you have regarding how to actually set time aside in your daily schedule to focus on actually working on these goals?
Um, I can start off a little bit again, Marta. And it's just really about here. It's about right in terms of setting time aside. I often say that hey, time blocking, schedule blocking is something that is very handy if you're trying to find time for a particular goal. Um, because I think all of our days get busy, right? I definitely remember my days as a GA, as a research assistant. And you go into the lab and sometimes your lab doesn't have windows and you start working and the sun is out and then you look up and you go outside because you're like I'm hungry and then it's pitch black, and time just disappears on you very quickly, especially when you're very focused on what you're working on. And so time blocking really what that allows you to say like I'm going to set X amount of time each day for this thing, um, putting that time aside, setting alarms in your calendar, setting alarms on your phone, right? I think we all carry around a daily alarm clock with us nowadays, and just being like, okay, that's my time. That's what I have time for this. I'm going to move to the next thing. Um, and that can be tricky when you have deadlines for other things that are coming up. But again, going back to the why, right? It's why is this particular goal important to you? If it really is and truly is important to you, um, we all make the time. We find the time to achieve those goals, follow up with those goals, and kind of follow through with them in terms of a time scheduling and kind of having place for that.
Yep, you nailed it right on the head. Thanks, John.
Thank you. So somebody just typed a question in our chat here. What is the main purpose of these sessions? Is it to talk about career goals or professional goals, or maybe more personal or financial goals?
So I actually really like that question. And the purpose is whatever your purpose is, right? So if you want to talk about career goals, then we'll talk about your career goals. If you want to talk about personal financial goals, then we can talk about some personal financial goals. And so I do really want to stress that we're not financial advisors, so we can't give you that financial advice, but we can definitely uncover your motivation and get you to where you want to be depending on what your financial goals are. But the purpose is all up to you.
Yeah, Marta hit it right on the head, right? It's all about what you're wanting out of that session. I think we had mentioned it a little bit earlier that this partnership was really developed as we were reaching out to the graduate college to be like, hey, how do we help? How do we get your students to live a fuller life, right? We know graduate process is tough, right? I know the graduate process is tough, especially those that are in those thesis-based careers, right? I know that your days can go and disappear on you. But it's really about that. It's understanding that, hey, you are a whole person, right? So sometimes it is financial goals. And in different seasons of our lives, those goals change. Sometimes we're talking about things that are very like career driven. I'm focused on that right now, and then we'll talk about that. But maybe a year from now, those goals change and that conversation just kind of evolves over time. So there is a time and a season for all of those things, is what I like to say as well.
Thank you. Thank you both. So while our participants are thinking of some last minute questions here, John and Marta, do you want to go back to that slide that has your QR codes, just so everyone can see them again in case they wanted to scan those?
Yeah, there you go. I think there's one more question here that we didn't get to talk of, and I really I would love to hear Marta share on this one, because I know she has some good ones. But what is your favorite success story from coaching experience?
Yes. So for me personally, with the work experience and career experience that I've had, the best customers that I work with are the ones where we're literally starting from the very beginning, right? Where it's like we're opening up that savings account so that way in a year, in 2 years, you can have that home or you can have that vehicle that you dream of, but you don't necessarily want to finance it. So for me, the passion is really seeing you grow from the dirt to the flower, to say the least.
Yeah, and just to kind of share in a very similar vein, right? It's I think a more personal a story that I think for me was just kind of watching somebody go from like, hey, um, I have this hobby, right? Uh, This particular client, they wanted to be a writer, and they started off with that, and that's not something they necessarily knew they really wanted to do we first sat down, right? They came in understanding like, hey, this is my bank. We're going to talk about my goals, and so it started off as something financial, and the conversation evolved over throughout the time that we were spending together, and it got to like, hey, I really want to write this book. And then by the end of our session and going forward, that's what they're doing. They're chasing this dream that they didn't completely realize that they had, and are really going after it now, and have had put words onto pages and are starting to put together that book. And seeing them kind of follow through for me personally has been one of my great successes, and those stories that really sit with me and remind me why I do what I do at the end of the day.
Thank you both so much, and thanks for catching that question, John. I missed it in the chat here. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the questions directly to John or Marta, and they'd be happy to answer those for you.
We would definitely love to connect with you guys. So to all the tech savvy got people, scan our codes or go to explore.com or usbank.com, explore my goals and set up a session. It is linked directly to our calendar, so you are able to see our availability live time. So choose whatever time works for you, and we are definitely ready to meet and talk about your goals.
And then one last thing, kind of to tag on to what Marta was just talking about. You know, we chose to do this particular these workshops throughout the day because we completely understand that like, hey, everyone's on a different schedule, right? I'm sure you're here with us at 5 o'clock in the evening because noon or 8 o'clock in the morning didn't quite work with you. And so look at our calendars. If there's not a time that's in there, I know we'll be sharing some information with Navina that she'll be passing out to you guys. And then just reach out to us, right? Reach us by email. And then many of us work some hours outside of the usual 9 to 5 or 9 to 4, whatever that is, of our normal what we call our branch hours. So we definitely can find some time that works best for you guys. We're very aware that everyone's schedule is a little bit different.
Thank you, John. And just to add on to that, we'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow, and we'll include this PowerPoint on there and John and Marta's contact information so that if you decide you wanted to sign up and check out a goal exploration workshop with session with them, feel free to do that. And I really hope you all take advantage of this amazing free service and sign up with them just to explore your goals and see maybe you'll discover one that you didn't know you had, like John mentioned earlier. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. So if nobody has any last minute questions, I guess we will wrap up this workshop. But before we do, a huge thank you to John and Marta. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us for 3 sessions today and sharing your expertise and your passion for helping people achieve their goals. And thank you everyone for coming and joining us for this workshop. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you guys. Thank you all for the time, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I look forward to meeting with you guys.
Bye.
Bye.